On the calories out front, it's movement. It's things like doing cardio, but it's important to note it's also breathing, sleeping, digesting food, maintaining muscle on your body.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Basics podcast. I am Matt Stone, and as always, I have my best friend, Dylan Waldheater. Dylan, it's good to see you, man. How's it going this week?
You too? Yeah, good. Spring's in the air. Sun's coming out. Weather's getting warmer.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
It's your birthday. It's your birthday weekend coming up here.
Yes, it is. The big 33. So, happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Let's get the show started with no pun intended here. Our hot topic of the week. It is something that I know you are really passionate about. It's coffee. It's America's beverage.
It's America's beverage. It's the world's antioxidant, actually, believe it or not.
Ooh, all right. I like that. That's good branding. That's good marketing for coffee.
So we'll talk about that. Yeah, it's a hot topic, no pun intended, but I think the topic of conversation was prompted by your desire to have a quick chat about cold brew coffee, no?
Oh, dude. Okay. Yeah. So I wasn't sure if we wanted to lead with that, but I am full in on my cold brew addiction. I love it. It's the perfect way. Now the weather's starting to turn a little bit. It is exactly the punch that I need in the morning to help me get my shit together. Now, the reason for that is because cold brew has more caffeine, right? Like that's true.
It can be. Yeah. So let's have the whole conversation around coffee, and I'll conclude with telling you exactly how to make the perfect cold brew coffee at home.
I can't wait.
All right. And we can talk about the stronger piece of it too. But I think people often wonder if coffee is good for them or not. There's a lot of it's like anything, right? It's like eggs, it's like diet, so it's like anything, right? It's good for you, it's bad for you. Coffee's very good for you, right? I led by saying it's the world's antioxidant because it's actually the highest source of antioxidants in the average American's diet, which is really pretty interesting to think about. It's also a decent source of soluble fiber. It comes from a bean, right? A coffee bean. It's worth noting, right? Coffee's a stimulant. It's a drug. So too much caffeine can lead to things like jitters. I should say caffeine's a drug, not coffee per se.
Right.
But there's one tiny little maybe health consequence to drinking coffee, and it actually has to do with cholesterol. There's something in coffee called a diterpene, and it suppresses the body's production of substances involved in cholesterol breakdown. So it can cause cholesterol to increase actually. But it's worth noting that if you filter your coffee, so if you make coffee through any kind of a paper filter, it actually decreases the amount of those diterpenes in the coffee itself. So unfiltered coffee, like a French press, for example, where you don't have any filter in there, that can actually have up to 30 times more of these things. So all this to say, if you're watching your cholesterol for any reason, making sure you're filtering your coffee can be important.
Yeah, it sounds like it could actually have a decent effect on that.
It can, yeah. The studies show that. The other, I think, the reason people may suggest that coffee can be unhealthy has a lot to do with when you drink it, how much you drink of it, and what you add to it. So maybe we break those things down quickly. When you drink, it's important, right? Caffeine as a drug has a really long half-life, meaning it takes a long time for it to leave your body. So me personally, I don't touch coffee after noon. If I do, I'll lay awake in bed staring at the ceiling. Everybody processes it a little bit differently. My dad can have a pot of coffee before bed and sleep like a baby. But if you're somebody who's sensitive to caffeine, and sleep's incredibly important and you're struggling to sleep, that might be a really logical first place to look, is if I'm having my coffee too late in the day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but that again, like that's caffeine in general. So that's your sodas, energy drinks, anything with caffeine. It's a pretty good place to start if you are having sleep issues to cut it out in the afternoon.
Yeah, and then how much of it you drink is important too, right? Any Too much of any good thing can become a bad thing. Are you drinking coffee right now?
Mm-mm. Tea, it's late. Yeah,
Um,
it's almost 9 o'clock at night. I'm not really all that sensitive to caffeine like that. So I am one of those guys similar to your dad. Like I probably could have a cup of coffee and it wouldn't, what I should say is it wouldn't affect what I like notice about my sleep. I probably wouldn't have much problem falling asleep, but how that affects the quality, that is probably like where the real issue lies.
yeah, that's interesting. I don't know too much about that, but it's sort of like alcohol, right? Like
Hmm.
it'll help you fall asleep, but if you look at we know the quality of sleep after you've
Yeah.
had alcohol is very, very poor.
Hmm.
There's a ton of studies on coffee. The consensus is that if you have about 2 to 5 cups a day, it's linked to a myriad of really beneficial health outcomes. Lower likelihood of type 2 diabetes, um, improvements in risk of heart disease. It improves risks around liver and endometrial cancers, Parkinson's disease, and depression. So it's a really fantastic for your health in moderation. So how much of it you drink is important. Again, that study is suggesting 2 to 5 cups a day.
Two to
Um,
five cups is a lot. I mean, like
it's a good
really.
amount of coffee. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I love coffee and I'm like a 2 cup a day guy.
Oh, I know, and especially, yeah, if I have too much coffee in the morning, like it's the jitters for me. It's the kind of like that, like just get a little sweaty, like
Mhm.
it's just general discomfort. So yeah, I mean, I love coffee, but I mean, I feel like 5 cups a day. I don't think no, like I mean, I'd probably get 5 cups a day, like maybe once a week, and that's if I'm really getting after it.
Yeah, I never do. If I get to a third, I notice it. I feel like shit.
Hmm.
And then the last piece I mentioned is just what you add to it, right? The coffee diner regulars that are shoveling sugar into the coffee.
Hmm.
That obviously, or those, sugar creamers, the flavored creamers you might find it.
Yeah, your peppermint patty creamers
Right.
or Irish cream, and now it's just like there's straight up like candy bars.
Yeah.
I saw a Reese's one the other
Yeah.
day. It's
Crazy.
just like who needs a Reese's with
And
their coffee?
don't get me wrong, they taste good and in
Well,
moderation they're
no
probably
shit.
fine. But dude, I've seen some people where it's like half coffee, half creamer. Oh,
Yeah.
that creamer, and that is probably not great.
Well, but it also kind of like spits in the face of where the idea of like adding cream came from, like real like heavy cream or milk, which is high in fat. And that fat, mixing that fat with your coffee can actually be a way for the caffeine to kind of just like get time released in your system so that it's not just like hitting you all at once, which can kind of slow down those jitters. But if you're drinking your French vanilla coffee mates creamer that has, and they probably boast low fat, no fat, um, because fat is evil. That's just going to accelerate it because it's just basically straight sugar.
Yeah, fuck that. Real coffee drinkers drink their coffee black. Um,
Straight up.
but to each their
Straight
own.
up.
Each their own. Interesting tidbit on coffee that I think is misunderstood, and then I'll wrap on the cold brew point. Light roast coffee actually has more caffeine than dark roast, and dark roast coffee is shit. So
Wait, why?
it So if you go to any coffee shop at like a local roaster and all they have is dark roast, they're probably not all that, and this is me on my high horse, no doubt. But they're probably not all that good at roasting coffee because if you roast it enough, you kind of just burn the shit out of it and it all ends up tasting the same. If you can really delicately lightly roast the coffee, that's when you'll really start to get some of the flavor out of the bean. And especially if you're drinking your coffee black, lighter roast coffees offer really just a broader kind of taste experience. And again, I probably sound like an asshole here, but
You do, but everybody, let's appreciate Dylan's douchiness here because like it is helpful. I was forever. I thought all coffee tasted the same. I thought you were a huge douche. And then like I don't know, man, like at some point like I think it was actually having like good cups of coffee and just it's you know kind of like beer in that regard where you know once you or you know for our classy listeners wine but you know it's one of those things where once you have a good cup and you start to understand all the different flavors that you can actually have in coffee, then you can start to grow up and appreciate it a little bit more. So while you know, I'm not going to take things quite to the extremes that you do, and most people probably won't. That's a good little tip there. Light roast, not dark roast. Uh, and what else? What other like sweet
and,
little
and
tips do you have?
especially if you're drinking it light, try it black. But be careful because if you do become as douchey about me on coffee, it's kind of like you can't go back. So then all other coffee starts to
Oh, it's bad.
you can't help it. You become a snob about it, and you can
Hmm.
hear that in the way I'm talking about it. But I'm self-aware, which
Yeah,
is
that's true. That's true. And you know, you're just trying to make everybody's morning around you better, which I
exactly
appreciate.
exactly. So cold brew, is it stronger? It can be. You can. It all has to do with the ratio of coffee beans to water when you brew the cold brew. So if you like cold brew coffee, it's really easy to make at home. You can go on Amazon, search cold brew coffee maker. They'll give you this, pitcher that has a cylinder in it, and you'll want to grind the beans a little bit more coarse and put them in that cylinder piece, and then you essentially fill it with water and stick it in the fridge. Now, what you're going to want to do is weigh the coffee beans and weigh the water. And to your question about strength, a lot of people like to make it quite strong. So about a gram of coffee for every 6 grams of water. And that's going to give you a really strong brew. And then what people will do is pour it over a full cup of ice, and that'll kind of dilute it a bit.
Hmm.
Um, I like to make mine more like 1 to 12. So 1 gram of coffee for every 12 grams of water. And that would have it tasting a bit more like a traditional cup of coffee once you pour it over some water. But it's ultimately up to personal preference with regards to how it tastes and how strong you ultimately want it. With hot coffee, I brew it at a ratio of 1 to 16. So that
All
gives
right.
you a reference point um, for how cold brew plays. But it's personal preference. You can make it pretty damn strong. It'll still taste very, very good. And you can be shaken or have one hell of a workout after a nice cup of cold brew coffee.
But here's the thing is I don't want it. Like I'm not gonna make it at home because what I don't need is a pitcher full of caffeine juice in my fridge. I'm just gonna drink it. Like so, and
Well,
I don't think I'm alone here. So I'm gonna trust and going to patronize the local coffee shops that I have around me and get their cold brews at an alarming clip. But I don't need it. I don't want it sitting in my fridge because I mean I won't drink water. Like it'll
that's fair.
just become
I
cold brew.
mean, if you had a little self-control, it would be a convenient
Yeah,
way to have a cup of coffee every morning because all you'd have to do is go in the fridge and pour it over some ice. But
that's exactly why I
you
don't
know
have
yourself
potato
well.
chips in the house though. Single
It's,
serving.
it's,
Everything is a single serving if you try hard enough.
and I like the patronizing local businesses too. So. But
Yeah.
we're not a coffee podcast. We're a health and fitness podcast. What are we going to talk about today?
All right. So the main topic today is cardio. We're getting close to summer, and so the weather is starting to get a little bit nicer. You're starting to see everybody getting out, going on runs, dusting off the bike. And, I was thinking that it would be important for us not to bash cardio, because cardio is a very important part of the training plan, but I thought we could shed some light on why that's not going to be the best route for fat loss.
Yeah, what an important conversation, because I think when most people come to terms with the fact that they need to or want to lose some weight, the first place they typically go is lacing up the running shoes and trying to do some running.
Yeah, exactly.
And it can work for a period of time, but we want to talk through some of the nuance around why maybe it starts to not work and what might work better sustainably over the long term. To begin the conversation, I think it's important to talk about how to achieve fat loss, irrespective of training modality. It's just a calorie balance game, right? You have to get into a calorie deficit. The calories you're consuming or taking in need to be less than the calories out. You've probably heard people say before, you got to move more and you got to eat less. And that is significantly simplifying the issue. And if your coach is telling you that, they're probably not the best coach in the world. There's some truth to it for sure, but the move more component has been shown to matter much less than the eat less component of that statement. So it does matter, right? Exercise matters, especially being more active, walking, but dedicated exercise for the purpose of losing weight or losing fat, or the 3 or 4 hours that you can give in your time constrained schedule in the gym every week, has less actual impact on losing weight and fat loss than people realize. And we'll talk about cardio, we'll talk about strength training, we'll talk about how they work differently against each other. But calories in is going to be the best variable you have to manipulate with regards to losing weight. To get into a calorie deficit, if you eat less, you will lose weight. If you eat less than what your body needs on a given day, there's nothing else that can happen. It's really that simple. And so we can dive into that some more, but I'm kind of rambling now, Matt. So do you want to say anything on those points?
Well, yeah, and we'll get into it. I mean, you're exactly right. And that is the easier variable to manipulate that's going to have a bigger impact on the overall, like, moving the needle. And then what exercise you're doing is going to have an impact on how your body handles it. So your body is going to lose weight. Now, what type of weight you're losing is going to be that's going to be reflective on the type of training that you're doing, right? I mean, is it that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair. And it's really just about our bodies. We've mentioned this before. They're adaptation machines.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm saying it's not really about the it's not what you're dedicating your exercise to 3 to 4 hours a week for that specific 3 to 4 hour period of time. It's which exercise can I do that's going to give my body the signal to adapt in a way that's advantageous to losing weight or to burning fat. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what we want to get to. When we're talking, calories in, it's as simple as, the stuff you eat and the stuff you drink. And I just want to note that proteins, carbs, fats, right? The macronutrients doesn't really matter. So if why do people cut carbs? Or why is cutting carbs such a magical formula for weight loss? Well, because
Calorie deficit.
because right, because it's you're cutting out one of the three macronutrients of you're likely to eat a little bit less.
Yeah. And
So there
also
is
it's the
no,
most popular, carbs. When
yeah,
you think about, like, if you just named, if you're naming foods, like, there's going to be odds are, like, most things that you see in the grocery store are carbs, you know.
yeah, and they're probably the easiest to overeat too, right?
Oh, 100%. Well, especially if we're talking about processed or ultra processed foods, which tend to be, yeah, like that higher calorie, less satisfying. For the most part, those are going to be carbs.
Yeah, so the calories in these different things doesn't really matter. It's just calories overall. It's worth noting, we've said before, protein is the most satiating
Right.
and the muscle producing. So that eating more protein may help you eat less overall. And there is this thermic effect of food. The impact of it is pretty minimal, but to sort of chew and digest the food itself comes with maybe some reduction in the overall calories that ultimately end up being processed by your body. So protein typically has a higher thermic effect, just meaning that again, to chew it and to digest it requires more calorie out than some of these other macronutrients.
Right.
But what we really want to talk about today is the calories out piece of the equation, and
Hmm.
specifically cardio, right? So
Yeah.
on the calories out front, it's movement, it's things like doing cardio, but it's important to note it's also breathing, sleeping, digesting food, maintaining muscle on your body,
Hmm.
sitting on the TV, sitting on the couch watching TV. You're going to burn calories throughout the course of the day. The reason cardio is so popular is because if you look at an hour, doing an hour of cardio versus other types of exercise, within that hour that you're dedicating to the exercise itself, you are going to burn more calories than other types of exercise like strength training.
Hmm.
But it's not really setting you up for success in that overall calories out picture,
Right.
which is what we ultimately want to get to.
Yeah. Exactly. And you add the fact that nowadays everybody's got an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or whatever that's telling them, and telling them not even all that accurately how many calories they've burned, simply based on some information that they gave to their Apple Watch plus their heart rate. So it really is one of those things where it's something that I've noticed as a trainer that I kind of have to get out of people's heads, especially if they come into the gym thinking, that fat loss is their primary goal. It's, let's stop looking at the Apple Watch, and let's stop guessing how many calories we've burned in a session, because as we'll get to, uh by strength training, you're going to set yourself up for a fuller day of calorie burn as opposed to those peaks that come with cardio.
100%. Yeah. So a better place to start is to try to figure out what your maintenance calories are. What is the amount of calories that I need to take in over the course of a day to not lose or gain any weight? And that's sort of going to establish your baseline. And from there, you can sort of see where the opportunity is for weight loss. You have to get below that in order to be in a calorie deficit. Now, what we want to consider is really our total daily energy expenditure, our TDEE, right? Again, the just the things we do, walking, um, anything you do over the course of the day that's going to burn calories is going to make up that total daily energy expenditure
Just like
picture.
fidgeting, just if you are, if,
Anything.
if you're
That
sitting,
happy feet.
even right now,
Yeah,
and there's actually, Kelly Starlett has a really great book, that I can't remember the title of now, but he's the author of Supple Leopard, which is one of my favorite mobility books. But him and his wife, Juliet, wrote a book about just like aging gracefully. And, they basically talked about how people who fidget, can't really sit still, how, they're going to naturally burn significantly more calories throughout the day. And that's, their whole point was getting us out of those comfy chairs, out of the recliners, off the couches, out of the swivel chairs at our desk with lumbar support, and
Mhm.
sitting in, stools, and on the and floor sitting or standing desks, and how, something as simple as just changing that environment can have a massive impact on calorie burn.
Massive. Yeah, incredibly important. So if we think about this total daily energy expenditure as sort of a way to better determine how we're going to exercise to lose weight or to burn fat, then we can start to think about you know, what is the best one to choose? And what we should be thinking about is which form of exercise is best suited to increase our daily calorie burn, not just in the hour that we're doing it, but while we're working, while we're watching TV, while we're sleeping, while we're
Yeah.
fidgeting. And most people are time limited, like I said, right? So if you've got a few hours a week for exercise, and again, it's very much about sending a signal to your body to adapt in order to lose fat. Which of these adaptations are best for your body if fat loss is your goal? Your
Hmm.
body is just an adaptation machine. And so that leads us into this conversation around cardio, right? So cardio sends a signal to your body. It's a stress signal. Strength training is a stress signal to your body. And your body, if you're doing cardio, will adapt to that stress in order to become more resilient the next time you do cardio.
Hmm.
So cardio in the short term is going to burn lots of calories. Again, in that hour you're doing it, it's going to burn more than if you were to do an hour of strength training. But your body, as an adaptation machine, it doesn't want to be deprived of calories, right? So your body's going to adapt to burn less calories, both while you're doing that exercise, but also throughout the course of the rest of that day. And this is where the problem comes in a bit. It's effectively slowing down your metabolism. It's
Yeah.
decreasing that maintenance calorie load. It's decreasing your overall total daily energy expenditure.
So we need to make sure, because like that's a really good point, but it's like I just want to make sure that we don't lose anybody there. So
Okay.
let's just go over again. Losing, so by doing cardio, because our body is this efficient machine, it notices these spikes in calorie burn. But what you're saying is that it's actually going to have a negative effect on metabolism if this is the primary source of exercise that you're getting.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
yeah. So thank you for clarifying the point. So you'll see people do cardio and they'll lose weight really fast.
Hmm.
And then they probably plateau at some point, and the majority of the time, as we know from the studies, they regain that weight very quickly. Because if you decrease your overall total daily energy expenditure, if you're decreasing your metabolism, your overall calories out over the course of that day decreases. And now you need to eat much less to maintain a calorie deficit, right? So if you're telling your body to essentially conserve calories, your body's becoming more efficient with them. That sort of maintenance baseline that you're working from is going to decrease. So the only way to keep losing weight is just to keep decreasing further. So you're
Right.
sort of working yourself backwards there, and it becomes really, really hard to continue losing weight over time. Your body becomes better at holding on to calories and body fat because you've told it that
Yes.
you're going to do these longer bouts of activity that require them.
And one thing that your body recognizes, especially if this is something that you do consistently, your body is going to start to recognize that what it doesn't need a lot of is muscle,
Yep.
because cardio is not something that requires a lot of muscle, especially upper body muscle. So our body's wanting to be an efficient machine. It's going to take a look around and it's going to say, well, what things do we not need?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to look at the muscle that you have, and especially because, and we'll get into this, but muscle requires more calories to maintain than fat. And so it's going to look to that muscle and say, well, we don't really use this, we don't need it. It would be smart for us to cut it. And so if you look at the majority of runners, that like, and I'm talking about, like marathon runners, if you look at people who have that quote unquote runner's body, there is not a whole lot of muscle. They are all, it's just pretty much skin and bones. And it's because the body understands that it just isn't going to require all that muscle.
Not only not required, but it's going to get in the way, right? Like
Mhm.
to run efficiently, the lighter you are,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
So I
that's
mean, if your goal, if that's your goal, if you
yeah,
want to be an excellent runner, obviously, that's all fine and good. But if you are just a regular person that's just looking to lose some weight, body recomp, look better naked, that just doing cardio or primarily doing cardio is not, you'll see some stuff on the scale move initially, but it's not going to set you up for that long-term success and not going to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah, unless you have 2 hours a day to go for a run, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
it, it's some we're talking to just real regular people like you and I that we don't have that kind of time to be working out. So what is going to be the most effective
Right.
and help us achieve that goal? A kind of similar thing you'll see is with crash diets, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
how many people have you seen that significantly reduce their calories, lose a ton of weight very quickly,
Yeah.
and then they go back to normal life and they just gain it back and then some.
And then
And
some.
again, it's just a body adaptation thing. You cut your
Right.
calories significantly, telling your body this is the new normal. And as a result, your new baseline becomes that lower calorie amount because your body is going to want to be more efficient with those calories. And then in order to maintain that new low weight, you need to keep eating at this low calorie level in perpetuity.
Yeah.
And in order to keep losing weight, you gotta go even lower and lower and lower and lower.
Yeah, and
So
that's actually one of the things that we do, with our coaching clients is making sure that, because that's one of the first things that everybody thinks as well. Talk about my nutrition. What do I need to cut out? What do I got to stop eating? Give me this, give me that. And the thing that you and I both feel very strongly on is the first change that we're making in someone's diet is never taking away. It's
mhm,
always what can we add to it? And it's usually water and protein, right?
yeah,
Like those tend to be for the majority of people the first major change, because you're exactly right. I mean that the reverse diet, and not reverse diet. The reverse diet is what we is something that we implement. But that crash diet can really have a negative effect, especially in the long term.
you bet. Yeah. So I think from a coaching perspective, where we would always start is sort of figuring out what is the baseline and
Hmm.
how can we work with that and what should we do with it? Because if your baseline is 2,000 calories and you decide to lose weight and you eat 1,400 calories, over time your body's going to adapt to 1,400 calories as
Exactly.
it's going to want to be as efficient with the limited calories as possible. So
Yeah.
now your baseline's decreased to 1,400. So
Right.
when you go back to a normal life and eat 18, 1,900, 2,000 calories, you're finding yourself in a significant surplus again. And that's why people put this weight back on so quickly. And so let's maybe pivot into talking about strength training and why putting on muscle can have the exact opposite effect.
Right. And it's yeah, and plain and simple, muscle requires calories.
Yeah.
So when you have more muscle, if your body wants to maintain that muscle, it requires more calories. You need to eat more to maintain what you already have. And so you are naturally boosting your metabolism. And instead of dropping down to a baseline, you are upping your baseline so that you get to eat more food if that's what you want to do. Or at the very least, you're going to see, more rapid weight loss results if you're staying at a lower number of calories in, because your body wants to use those calories to maintain that muscle if it's shown that you're going to use that muscle.
Yeah, it sends the exact opposite signal. You
Hmm.
may have heard people say muscle is expensive. What they
Right.
mean is when you have muscle, your total daily energy expenditure is going to be higher. When you are
Just by
watching,
sitting there.
just by sitting there, by watching TV, because muscle
Hmm.
is expensive. It requires many more calories to build it and maintain it. So when people say strength training increases your metabolism, this is effectively what they mean by that. Now you're
Yeah.
burning more calories while you're doing nothing at all.
Yeah, and so I mean, like you said, this is the opposite effect of cardio. Instead of dropping down, instead of your body saying, "All right, look, we're not getting many calories in. We need to do a good job of maintaining it." the body says, holy shit, we need to keep this muscle around, feed it, feed it, feed it. And it's going to use all those calories to maintain what you already have. And if you're continuing to strength train and progressively overloading and following a good program, it's going to need more to build that muscle.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like you are priming your body to be a fat loss machine while getting that recomp of building muscle. It's a win-win.
Win-win, win-win. So what we want to, there's an opportunity here to do something awesome, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's to increase our maintenance calories. You kind of hit on it. To increase our total daily energy expenditure, to increase our metabolism. So remember, the body adapts and muscle is expensive. So when you strength train to build muscle, your body now needs more calories to build and maintain that muscle. So that's what we mean by increasing the metabolism. So now let me give you another example. If your baseline's 2000 and you eat at maintenance, but you're strength training, your body may now require 2200 calories to build and maintain that muscle. So now eating 2000, just eating what you were before, puts you in a calorie deficit of 200. So this is the way, right? Train to increase your maintenance calories. You'd be so shocked by how quickly you can increase your daily calorie need by building muscle. And from there, you're setting yourself up in a much better position where the weight it'll start to fall off. The challenge here, Matt, is it might take a little bit longer. And if
Totally.
if you're staring at the scale and you're expecting these immediate results, the reason people quit is because they don't give it enough time.
Yeah. This piece of advice isn't for everybody, but for the majority of people, just getting rid of the scale for, and not forever, because I do think that there's value in knowing how much you weigh and just having a general idea, what you're walking around at and paying attention to those fluctuations. But for the majority of people, when you are beginning a fitness journey, a body recomposition journey, the best thing that you can do is just go off of how you're feeling.
Mhm.
And you're the scale is going to be one of the very last things to move. So if you can just understand that part, it's the classic, a pound of, a pound of fat versus a pound of muscle. And if you have them held up side by side, you'd be shocked to see, it's crazy how much more a pound of fat, how much more space it takes up.
Mhm.
And so you got to understand that just because the scale isn't moving, it doesn't mean that real change isn't happening. You are building muscle, and that means if you're building muscle and the scale isn't moving, you're burning fat.
Yeah.
You can't, like, there's no two ways around it. It's happening. It's just one of those things that you got to be patient with it and give it time for it to happen.
And that's what we want to do in most cases, right? Is burn fat.
Right.
And
Yeah, it's not lose weight.
the scale's telling you about weight. And the weight is made up of many different things than just fat.
Mhm.
You could not lose a pound on the scale and look completely different, right? Like it's
Yeah.
the body fat percentage maybe that
Mhm.
we would be better off kind of monitoring and tracking. But
Totally.
I'm helping two people out right now. One of them's my mom, and we were just getting started, and I wanted her weight just sort of as a baseline,
Mhm.
but I didn't even want her to know it. So I covered her eyes and just had her get on the scale. So I know the number. So I know what we're working with, but I know how dangerous it is to her to use that as a point of reference, right? Another person I'm working with was regularly weighing themselves and seeing these fluctuations, right? And maybe not paying enough attention to the trend, simultaneously telling me that her clothes fit better, that she noticed some muscle on her arms, and she was frustrated about the scale.
Yeah.
And I'm
It's
like,
like,
you're paying attention to the wrong things here. What you're
right.
doing is working. Give it time. You've been doing this for a month, and that's
Yeah.
already occurring. You are winning. Stay the course, right? This is much more of a sustainable game for you. You're still eating pizza. You're in the gym, strength training less than you were running every day, and you're already seeing results. Let's give it months. Let's give it a year. Let's give it 4 years of consistency and see how you look, feel. And this is really, I think, the winning game.
Yeah, I mean, 100%.
So
Yeah,
you mentioned reverse dieting. We should maybe just touch on that quick because that can be a really effective strategy, especially for somebody that's maybe been through a roller coaster of crash diets, and
yeah,
as a result, they've told their body that, this really low kind of maintenance is where I need to be, and so maybe their maintenance calories are 14, 1500. So to lose weight, they got to cut down to 1300 calories, which is not a sustainable place to be living. So
right.
how does a reverse diet work?
Well, hold on just one second.
Yeah.
I gotta hit pause on this because my computer's about to die. So we're gonna do a little podcast magic here.
We'll play
And
some elevator music.
when we come back, my computer will be charging. So stand by, everybody. We actually might be in trouble. So hold on. So what reverse dieting is, in a nutshell, is actually increasing calories at the start of your new diet. So, I mean, what most people think when they're starting with a new diet is, oh, again, like I got to cut out this, I got to stop eating carbs, I got to do this and that. And really, what the thought process is behind a reverse diet is to get that metabolism used to burning more calories. So we're actually going to up those calories a little bit, and then your body is going to get used to burning that many. And then when we start to cut calories, it's going to have an even more potent effect.
Yeah. So again, it's just about sending a signal and then the adaptation that your body's going to make. Did you have to run 4 miles to grab your computer charger?
Dude, I mean, I was sprinting all over. Should we take that again?
No, no, we're just doing an episode on cardio and you're huffing and puffing. It sounds
Dude,
like
I was
maybe we
running
should talk about the
the
cardiovascular benefits and heart health benefits.
stairs. Listen, this is not a podcast to talk about my current cardio state. But
No.
all I know is I'm getting my non-exercise calories by having to by having to run up and down stairs to find my charger. So I think my heart rate is back down to a normal rate. And so yeah, I think now we can have a serious conversation about reverse dieting.
So reverse dieting, I mean, it's something you could certainly try on your own. It's probably best with the support of a coach or a trainer.
Hmm.
But if you're a person who's really crashed your metabolism and it's in a very bad state, and you're working with a coach or you use a calculator online and you find that your baseline is really quite low, might be a good idea to figure out how to get that up first
Hmm.
and then cut your calories from there. It's a more sustainable approach to weight loss.
Well, and it's also going to be more enjoyable too. I mean, it's really hard to, start making all of these changes, and you're also restricting calories on top of that.
Yeah.
So, it makes the process a lot easier at the start. And then, there's also the benefits of getting your metabolism fired up and ready to go. And so, yeah, it's just there seems to be a lot higher success rate when you go this route. But again, yeah, it's something that, you got to kind of, you got to draw the fine line, right? Because if you say, "Oh, I'm reverse dieting," and then you just that just means to you that you're going to be eating more for the next couple of weeks. If you don't have a game plan
Right.
around how many more calories and what those calories might consist of, you're not doing yourself. You're not actually reverse dieting. You're just increasing calories.
I think the really important thing you got to ask yourself if you want to lose weight, burn body fat, is are you in it for the long game? Are
Right.
you willing to make a commitment to a sustainable journey over time in order to not only lose the weight but keep the weight off? And so many people go to cardio first. And as I mentioned up front, they see some relatively quick weight loss, but they put themselves in a really advantageous to disadvantageous position to sustain that over time. And
Hmm.
so just know
Yeah.
that it's just really important that you have that conversation with yourself first. Am I in this for the right reasons? Am I in this for the long run? Am I willing to give a month plus to it, um, without looking at the scale, without really concerning myself too much about seeing these really quick results? Because it may not happen immediately, but we can both tell you from experience. We can tell you from what we've read. We can tell you from people that we know that we've worked with that this is the way to lose weight, to burn body fat, and to keep it off for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and that's a really good point because the people that we work with, we don't get the people that say, I've got my wedding coming up in a month and a half, and I want to lose 20 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are coaches out there that will help facilitate that, but what they cannot guarantee is that you're going to do any of this healthily.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we are here to help people make long-term changes that will set them up for success for the rest of their life, so that when they look at themselves in the mirror a year from now, 2 years from now, they are proud of the person that they've become. And so it's so much more than just changing numbers on the scale. And we promise, if you do these things, you will see those changes, but it's not going to be this rapid transformation. It's not going to be, oh yeah, in 30 days I lost 30 pounds, because anybody that can promise you that is is promising you something that is not real. They're promising you an aesthetic. They're promising you that picture, and it's not an actual lifestyle because it's not sustainable.
Yeah, and I should note that you're not going to see immediate. You may not see immediate results on the scale,
Right.
but you may get some pretty quick satisfaction with your mental health, with how your clothes fit, with
Totally.
how you feel, how strong you are, a little bit
Hmm.
more tone in your arms and your
Oh,
legs.
you'll
And
notice it.
so, yeah, it's very much about reframing your objectives and paying attention to some of these other things that are so critically important, because I think a lot of people get into it. And the only thing they're after is seeing that scale go down. And that
Hmm.
will come if you do this right, and it will stay down if you do this right. But
Yeah,
there will be these other wins along the way, and those wins are so incredibly important to overall health, even beyond what the scale says.
for sure. But this also isn't to say that we're anti-cardio.
No,
Cardio is a super important aspect of training. And if you just listen to the last few minutes of this podcast, you understand that we could all use a little bit of work on our cardio.
Matt almost had a heart attack looking for his computer charger.
There are stairs here, Dylan. I don't think you like. Anyways, there are two types of cardio that uh, well, first off, I think it's worth stating that cardio should be a part of everybody's wellness routine. There are plenty of benefits beyond losing fat. There are the heart benefits. There is plenty of good things that come from doing cardio, but really, like, the most effective form of cardio for you is going to be the one that you can consistently do. And so for me personally, I that comes in two ways for me. One, it's by play, so whether that is sports. I like to play pickleball. I like to roll jujitsu. Dylan and I, have a pretty heated one-on-one basketball rivalry that when we get together, we like to roll out. But it's the cardio that you're going to do consistently and and ideally it's something that you find fun. But those things tend to be more of that like high intensity kind of, like almost like sprinting, where you are having these quick bursts of energy expenditure, and then your body is recovering, and then you're ramping back up and then slowing back down. But um, really the most realistic and effective cardio that you can just implement, pretty much, anybody can implement on a daily basis, is just walking, right?
The king of all exercise. It's the absolute best thing you can do. I mean, it's Jordan Syed had a really funny post the other day. He was like, I'm going to show you the best exercise, the best cardiovascular exercise of all time. Just watch, just watch. You got to look it up. I'm botching it, but he just was walking on a treadmill. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But it's true, right? Like, and it's really, really fantastic to pair up with strength training
Hmm.
because it's not going to send that same signal as cardio, but it's going to increase your daily calories out significantly. It's the king of all exercise. If I'm working with somebody and they're trying to burn fat and or lose weight, I'm pairing up some walking with that strength training, and we're looking to get the step count up. Again, something like a Fitbit can be fantastic. Don't look at the calories burned, but look at the steps, not as a perfect indicator of how many steps you took, but generally how much more am I moving over the course of a day, because that's what ultimately will contribute to increasing that total daily energy expenditure. We should do a whole episode on cardio and the benefits of it, because
Hmm.
there are all these different ways you can do cardio. And from a heart health longevity perspective, cardio is incredibly important. And the different types of cardio offer different types of benefits, whether it's sort of more steady state stuff or more sprinting, high intensity type stuff. So we can cover that another time. But
Yeah, it
again,
sounds like we're
this isn't a
teasing the next episode.
maybe we are. It's not a hack job on cardio overall.
No.
But if your goal is losing weight, burning fat, it is not the best strategy for you.
Yeah, well, it's just changing people's conceptions, because the majority of people, like you said, and we've done it. You and I have
Mhm.
both done it, and we have plenty of friends who have done it. Where, I'm getting back in shape. I'm really doing it this time. Dust off the running shoes. You know, do your couple minutes of stretching, and then head out the door, and see what happens. That
Yeah.
is the first step that the majority of people who are trying to get back in shape, that's where they're going. And we just want to shed some light and just like help you understand that that's just not going to be the most effective thing.
Yeah, and I'm an N of one. This is very anecdotal, but I can tell you from personal experience, I can't eat enough. Like
Hmm.
after 4 years of strength training, if I miss a few meals, the scale crashes because it's expensive to maintain the muscle that I've earned.
Hmm.
So I can tell you from experience that it works. My own experience, I can tell you from other people that I know that it really does work. But again, I said 4 years, right? Like, and I saw those results after 6 months, after 1 year, but it just takes time. And once you get there, it's a lot of fun because you don't have to worry so much about what you're eating. You don't have to, it's really a simple game. Prioritize the protein, stay consistent with the strength training, get some steps in, maybe do a little cardio for your heart, and you've set yourself up for a lifetime of success.
Hell yeah, man. You said it.
So that wraps that combo. Should we do a little quick Q&A before we get out of here?
Let's do it, man. Let's go. What do
We
we got on the docket today?
we can cover these quick. The first one was somebody had recently seen a post that squats and deadlifts are bad for you. So what say you about that was the question. And I looked into it some more. There's this guy on Twitter. Apparently he's a bit of a troll. He kind
Oh,
of
the guy who said that squats and deadlifts are bad for you is a bit of a troll.
there are lots of them that say this. This guy specifically was clearly trying to farm engagement,
Yeah.
and it worked. JJ Watt replied.
Oh God. Oh, we got
Yeah,
AJ.
we
Oh,
got
oh God. All
we
right.
got we got JJ on the pod. So I'm gonna share with you JJ Watt's reply, and then
Okay.
we can talk about it some more. But JJ said, this is like saying I think driving a car is bad for you. Best way to damage your car is to drive it. Sure, you can walk everywhere to decrease your risk of a car accident, but you'll get where you want to go a lot quicker and safely if you learn how to drive properly. Anything done with poor form and or excessive weight is bad for you. When done properly and integrated into a well-rounded workout, both exercises can be extremely beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, let's just do the if we could just do the, Michael Scott, 99 or what is the Wayne Gretzky quote?
Oh, yeah. Wayne Gretzky, Michael
Yeah,
Scott,
quote Wayne Gretzky, yeah, quote Michael Scott.
JJ Watt,
You may-
mask
Yeah,
up.
yeah. So yeah, if we could just do quote JJ Watt, quote the Better Basics podcast. I
Yes,
mean, because
yes.
he said it perfectly. Yeah, I mean, like I said on this podcast, a few weeks ago, squatting is a skill. Deadlifts are a skill. So if you do those skills shittily, you can wind up hurting yourself. But that doesn't mean that they're bad. It means that you did them poorly, or the person that was supposed to be helping you with them sucks at their job. So, if I, as a coach, I am never going to stop somebody from squatting and hinging. Now, does that mean that we're going to be doing barbell back squat and barbell deadlift? No, absolutely not. And those particular variations of those exercises might not be the most effective variations for people. But that doesn't mean that the movement is bad. The movement is necessary. You are going to squat and you are going to hinge in your daily life. If you are any sort of active person, if you like to move, you will go through those movements and you need to practice them. And I would also argue there is not a whole lot of, there's no better way to build lower body muscle than squatting, lunging, hinging. Like that's it. So you're basically saying that two out of those three moves are bad. Like you're an idiot. Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, and I'm assuming he was speaking specifically to the barbell back squat and the barbell deadlift. And your
Right.
point is really important. That being said, once you're ready for them, if you ever are ready for them, and if you leave your ego at the door and you do them safely and correctly and practice them to your point, yeah, there are very few exercises as effective. I mean, they are incredible exercises. I think the problem with them at times is that they attract people that want to max out and show off, and therefore they become risky because people are reaching far beyond where they should be. But again, with the right context, with the right coaching, with the right attitude, um, they're fantastic exercises. And this is just the absolutist nature of social media. So you should just
Mhm.
be aware of anything that says, don't ever do this or
Yeah,
this is
or
the
only do
best.
this. Yeah,
Right,
right.
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
It's
an
stupid.
immediate red flag. This guy and people that are doing this are farming engagement. They're seeking attention. And so just beware of
Well,
that. That
but I
it's a
will.
lot harder to go ahead.
All I'm gonna say is if you are doing a comprehensive strength program that doesn't have any sort of squat or any sort of deadlift in it, like that is a bad program.
Yeah.
That's not a program that's going to help you build effective strength. I mean, you need to do those moves. So again, like, does it need to be barbell back squat and barbell deadlift? Absolutely not. But you should strive to be able to do those exercises because you're not going to be able to move like those types of movements and those forms of that exercise are going to be the opportunities to move the most weight, thus build the most muscle. So,
Great.
they should be a pillar of every strength training program. And anybody that tells you otherwise is a fucking idiot.
Idiot.
Sorry for cursing.
It's an explicit podcast. I have to check that box when I upload it.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we're good. You can say all the fucks you want.
Okay.
The next question is from somebody running basic muscle, and
Mhm.
we have a brief video at the top of the program with regards to warming up. But
Yeah.
he specifically asked, "How should I warm up to lift and run a phase or a workout in this program?"
Yeah, warm-ups are incredibly individualized. And they not only are they individualized for the person, but they're also individualized for the workout that you're about to complete. If I'm going to be squatting, I'm going to warm up differently than I'm going to be if I'm going to be deadlifting. Or and you know, those differences might even be subtle, and you could get away with doing the same one, especially, you know, if you have a warm up that works really well for you. Now, personally, I think that there's a couple like really just general ways that you can warm up. The first thing that we want to think about is just getting the heart rate up and the blood pumping. So that's where I think something like a rowing machine is a really effective tool. And you know, I find that anywhere, it doesn't have to be far, like you know, 800 to 1,000 meters at a moderate pace seems like a really good way. It generally takes, you know, between 3.5 to 5.5 minutes to get that distance done. The rowing machine is great because it hits some lower body, it hits some upper body, the core is integrated. And so that is a really effective tool. But the other thing that I find to be really, really effective is to just do the exercise, just like a lighter version, a slower version of whatever exercise it is that you feel like you need to warm up for. And just, yeah, like go nice and slow, go nice and light, and just get into the move before you start getting to your working sets.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think any dedicated warm up that takes longer than 5 or 10 minutes is a significant waste of time.
Hmm.
Um, I don't have a rowing machine. I just jump up and down on my toes and pretend I have a rope,
Perfect. Yeah,
get the
perfect.
blood flowing, and then, I'll maybe prime some muscles for specific movements. To your point, work out the kinks I know I have. Maybe my hips are a little tight. I'll do some
Yeah.
90 if I'm going to squat. But yeah, a warm up set, right? Like if I'm barbell back squatting, I'll reduce the weight by 70% and I'll just do a few reps of that just to warm up the movement, warm up the muscles, and then I'll get after it. You don't need to be if you have a program and it's programming 15 to 20-minute long warm ups, nobody's got time for that. And it's really excessive and for the most part unnecessary.
Yeah, and if you have a comprehensive like mobility plan that you're doing on your off days, if you there are things that you know you need to work on, that should put you in a pretty good spot for when you're working out, that you don't need to spend as much time warming up. So that would be, you know, the last little piece of advice there is you know, to if there's something that you know you need to work on, if you know that your hips are tight, or if you lack you know, T-spine, you know, mobility, you know, those are things that you can work on in your off days that will help you when you get to the gym. And those tend to be things that you can do without much equipment at all. And so those are ways that you can, you know, kind of warm up before you even get to the gym, or you know, on the days that you're not even training. So you know, yeah, it, like you said, if you are spending 20 minutes warming up, you're wasting time. You know, do just some sort of quick cardio to get the blood pumping, and then yeah, just get right into the move that you're, you know, that you feel like you need to warm up for. Just go lighter and build up to that top set. And if you do those things effectively, um, and you're still, you know, running into pain points, then it's going to be useful to have somebody who knows what they're looking at, who has that coach's eye, to watch your movements and to help prescribe some, you know, some really tailored warm ups or mobility moves that you can work on a different time.
That's a super important point. Yeah, this is where a coach again can be just so helpful. Because for me, I know my hips are tight, my ankle mobility is pretty poor, and I have a hard time connecting to my lats. So I'll do specific moves before I bench press to get, my lats kind of engaged. I'll do a little combat stretch to loosen up the ankle mobility and a 90-90 to get the hips loose before I go squat. So knowing that, working with a coach, they can tailor something to you that's not going to take 20 minutes. It's going to take two, but it's going to prime those muscles and get them ready to give you the most effective set possible.
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, if you know like what you're hearing, and we do have some spots still open in our coaching program. So if you are interested in working with us, you know, please reach out. You can either reach out on Instagram is probably the best way, at either at the Basic Trainer or Better Basics Podcast. But then also, you know, we have our out of the box programs. If you go to thebasictrainer.com, we have Basic Home, which is a free, unbelievable, can't beat that,
Can't.
free at home band focused workout program. And then we also have Basic Muscle, which is our flagship strength training 12-week program. So highly recommend that you check those out. And honestly, those are the things that we need to keep building if we're going to keep doing what we love here. So Dylan, anything else that we got to add for the people here?
I think you owe us a sad song.
Yeah, I 100% do.
Do
And
you have one?
no, I have one. I have
Oh,
one.
okay, you had a look in your eye like you didn't. Okay.
No, I have one. It is a classic that is really it means a lot to both you and I. It is Mayday Parade, Miserable at Best. I was gonna go. There was another Mayday song that we're gonna add to this list shortly, but I felt like Miserable at Best is the one. So if you want to throw some heavyweight around with tears streaming down your face, it's a must check out.
Yeah, you can stop listening now if you don't want to hear a personal story about Matt and I. So go ahead and log off. But if you do, Matt and I used to drive around in his mom's minivan. We called it the Silver Bullet.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we just take the long way, so we had a duet and a half to Miserable at Best.
Yeah. I mean, most of that album, but yeah, that's the song that's still when it comes on the I Lift to Sad Songs playlist. It really it gets me feeling a kind of way. So check it out. We love you all. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.